Hey, this is Joe from Grow It Build It, and today I'm going to talk about purpletop grass. One of the prettier native grasses that we get to enjoy in North America is known as purpletop. Dense or mass plantings can give a purple hue or a ribbon effect that you can see from a distance that will actually vanish as you approach it more closely. One of my favorite things to do in late September, October, if you're out hiking and you see a patch of this, is just to walk through a patch of purpletop in bloom. With the breeze blowing on the sun on your back, it's just a zen-like experience. Like, you cannot do that and not be calm. It's great. This will be a shorter profile on this native grass, but I'm going to cover the following. What is purpletop and its benefits, identification and characteristics, germination requirements, landscaping and wildlife uses, and then we will review. So hope you stick with me and learn about this awesome native grass. So what is purpletop? Well, purpletop is a perennial bunch grass native to eastern North America. Scientifically, it's known as Tridens Flavus, and it grows 3 to 5 feet tall in full sun and medium to dry soils. But its native range covers much of eastern North America, from Texas and Nebraska to east of Florida and Maine. Often found along roadsides and in hayfields, it can grow well in poorer soils where other plants may struggle. Benefits. When it comes to benefit, the most obvious one would be beauty. And it really is pretty when in bloom. That grass creates a purple hue or just a shade of purple across a pasture or a field or even along a roadside. It's most stunning just after dawn or near sunset, the golden hours. Wildlife. Purpletop supports wildlife in several ways. It actually supports several pollinator species by being a host plant, but the seed can be eaten by several species of bird and small mammals as well. Erosion control. So this plant can be used to stabilize slopes and whatnot because it does have a strong fibrous root system. It's a cheap option to get some coverage on bare soil relatively quickly. Forage. One of the places I often see purpletop grass is in hayfields, and it makes complete sense why, as this grass is perfectly okay to be foraged by livestock. Deceivingly compact. Now, this grass, in a practical sense, is much smaller than the references would have you believe, and what do I mean by that? Well, if you look it up in a catalog, most references will say that this grass grows 3 to 5 feet tall, which is accurate, but not in a practical sense. When we think of tall grasses and we see a listing for a grass being 6 foot or 8 foot tall like a blue stem, we would assume that the blades would rise up to that height. But with purpletop, it isn't really like that, as the leaves are only about half the height, and the remaining height is this panicle, which is not dense by itself, and unless it is densely planted, you wouldn't even notice these purple spikelets unless you were very close to it. Here's a shot of me walking up to a single specimen that's found its way to my backyard microprairie. The upper part is almost invisible until I'm right on it. And if you're enjoying this video, please click the like button, as that greatly helps me out and I do appreciate it. And as always, all the information here is at an article on my website, which I'll link to below if you want a quick reference later on. Identification. So it's easiest to identify purpletop in late summer when the purple top is in bloom. Panicles that are up to 12 inches long by 1/3 as wide of purple spikelets that eventually form seed heads. But when it's not in bloom, purpletop can be much harder to identify. The reason for this is that the plant just really isn't that distinguishable from other common grass species, both native and exotic. But some characteristics is that there will be several stalks, known as culms, emanating from the central root stalk. And they don't go straight up. They're usually at a slight angle of like 10 to 30 degrees from vertical. Each stalk will have multiple alternate leaves that are 12 to 14 inches long by a ½ inch wide, and the leaves will nearly wrap around the stalk. And there will also be a small tuft of hair at that junction. And if it is given space without competition, the lower part can develop lots of leaves. When planted in competition, there are far fewer leaves present like you see here. But I don't worry too much about trying to identify grasses too much because it's just hard to do. Growing conditions. So for growing conditions, purpletop's going to do best in hot and dry conditions, so full sun and well-draining soil. It's drought tolerant, but it can do fine in medium moist soil. For textures, it can handle pretty much anything as long as there's some drainage. Saving seed from purpletop is incredibly easy. About a month after blooming, the seed heads will turn to like a white or a yellow color. Just run your hand along the stalk to strip the seeds from the panicle. These seeds can be stored in a cool, dry place for a couple of years. Now, to grow purpletop from seed, it generally has lower germination rates if you just tried to plant it in warm temps, but you can improve those with cold, moist stratification period. So the easiest way to do this is to just direct sow the seed in fall on disturbed area, or to winter sow the seed. And I'll link to a video in the top right and down below for winter sowing if you want more details. But you can see here I'm going to winter sow Purpletop in a milk jug. Alright, so I'm using a higher end potting soil that is thoroughly moistened. And then I just sprinkle the seed onto the mixture and press it in. I seal up the jug with duct tape and place it outside where it will sit for the remaining months of winter and spring. And I do this in around Christmas time. And here you can see that I had a pretty good germination rate. These individual seedlings can be separated and potted up or transplanted directly into the ground. It's best to plant in spring or fall when the soils are cooler and more moist. It allows the plant to establish itself that much faster. Alright, for wildlife. I said that this plant hosts insects, but which ones? Well, according to Butterflies of Ohio Field Guide, there are 4 species of skipper that are hosted by the leaves, including the crossline skipper, zebulon, little glassy wing, and the common wood nymph. Additionally, there are several other insects that will feed on the leaves, such as grasshoppers. The USDA also notes that the seed is eaten by turkey and quail, but there's likely other species of bird that will eat it as well. But the dried grass leaves in the spring will also serve as nesting materials for birds like bluebirds and such. Garden uses. Okay, so how can you use this grass to create a purple effect? Well, if you have a regular sized yard, you're probably not going to be able to do that unless you give up a large part of that yard. And why is that? Well, the Purpletop itself is just a collection of these small purple spikelet flowers arranged in a panicle. And when planted densely or with enough depth, it basically acts as a filter with which we see the landscape, giving us this beautiful purple hue. As we approach that purple ribbon, it vanishes like a mirage as the density of the purple spikelets drops. And most of us don't have the space to accomplish this in a regular suburban lot size. So if you're dead set on getting native purple grasses though, it's better to try pink muhly or purple lovegrass. And I got a video on pink muhly that I'll link to below. I do have this grass in my backyard microprairie though, but I know I'll never get the full effect. But it's not all about aesthetics. And keeping this grass around does provide wildlife benefit as well as give me my own seed supply. Okay, time to review. Purpletop grass is a perennial bunch grass native to North America. It will grow 3 to 5 feet tall in full sun and dry to medium moist soils. It is beneficial to wildlife by hosting caterpillars, providing food to birds and rodents, and as a nesting material. And it is absolutely gorgeous and zen-like experience to walk through a field of this in late September with the breeze blowing and all that. Unfortunately, we can't really recreate that in our own yard without giving up a lot of space. But that's all I've got for you today. If you've enjoyed this video, please click the like button as that greatly helps me out and I do appreciate it. If you have any questions, just ask them in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them. And alright, you guys all have a good one.